For cannabis, I think that's obviously a time that's come, for a number of different reasons, and I don't think I need to justify it too much here, but just to say concretely that it does, legalizing and taxing and regulating not only keeps it out of the hands of criminal gangs and the profits out, but it actually does a better job of keeping it out of the hands of our kids. Because when you have to show ID, when there's an expectation that you have to be 18 or 19 to be able to purchase this controlled substance like you do with alcohol or tobacco, you actually keep high school students and school kids away from it even more.
I am aware that Quebec sovereigntists are trying to drum up any sort of angle they can to try and remain relevant. Quebecers just aren't talking about sovereignty anymore. Even sovereign Quebecers, and there still are many who are proud and hopeful that that's going to be an option, aren't talking about it because we know that there are other things to talk about. The questions I get on the ground are about the economy, around our future, around our schools, around the kinds of things that matter in everyone's daily lives. And this is just a desperate ploy by the sovereigntist activists to try and remain relevant, and it's not something I'm going to engage with.
Cat Reserve blocking a road into a diamond mine. I mean, how do you feel about the blocking of roads?
My approach on Idle No More is that it's a positive movement. It's about grassroots getting engaged, and I have no time for anyone who's engaging in illegal acts. That's not something I support in any way, shape, or form. I think one of the really disturbing things about this government is that it's willing to wrap itself in the flag and hide behind the troops any chance it can get. But on the issue of caring for our veterans, whether it be around the Last Post Fund, whether it be around issues around clawbacks, we've seen that this government has been extremely derelict in our responsibility as a country to care for those who literally put their lives on the line for us. So this is another example of the lack of the fact that this government is absolutely shameless, that it's willing to use people for its own ends, but not actually respect the service that so many of our veterans have offered. Well, nice to hear a question from a neutral journalist. The question really is one of what is the best way to make sure that all Canadians have opportunities? How are we going to be able to make sure that people who live in marginalized communities and in difficult situations have a path towards getting good jobs? Well, the first thing is, and being able to contribute to their lives and keep a roof over their heads. The first thing is we have to make sure those good jobs are out there. And the hollowing out of the middle class hurts everyone, because that is what at the core of Canadian prosperity. If we have a ladder of opportunity for people who live in vulnerable situations, then they get to succeed. But of course, the Liberal Party has always believed that we need to make sure that there is a strong support structure there to make sure that we're creating opportunities and lifting people out of poverty, allowing them to lift themselves out of poverty through housing strategies, through educational opportunities, and through the fact that unfortunately food security becomes a bigger and bigger one because a record number of Canadians are using food banks, and those are things that we're all very concerned about. We have to make sure that we're giving opportunities to every Canadian, because that's what our society requires. I'm helping doing it right now by traveling across the country. I mean, there are a lot of areas with only 35 MPs in the House where we no longer have MPs where we're used to. We have to reconnect with Canadians and earn once again Canadians' trust. And that means making this leadership and making this campaign not about the future of the Liberal Party, but about the future of the entire country. And that's why I'm spending almost all my time in areas where there isn't a strong Liberal presence, because there are people who deserve better right across this country than to be polarized left and right. Well, the first actual step is actually respect and listen to rural voters. One of the things that amazed me was out west, the number of people who weren't Liberal supporters who come up to me from rural areas and say, we are sick and tired of having MPs who are spokespeople for the Prime Minister to us, rather than being our representatives in Parliament. And that breakdown of the basic trust of representative democracy is something that is all too ironic, given the fact that the Reform base was built around a frustration at the top-downness of the late 80s.
So what are you going to do?
I am going to make sure that the leader does not pick or appoint a candidate anywhere across the country, that everywhere people are chosen by the grassroots organizations. Secondly, once someone is elected, I'm going to allow for an awful lot more free votes to allow them to represent the concerns of their ridings, the concerns of their communities a lot better than before. I'm very aware it's a promise that has been made pretty much by every politician in the past, but it's one that I am absolutely committed to keeping, because that's the only way we develop a strong future for this country. Conservatives want to create growth without sharing, and the NDP want to share without creating growth. The Liberal Party has always understood you need to do both. You need to make sure we're creating prosperity and growing a bigger pie so that people can share in the bigger pieces of it right across. The role of the federal government is to engage with provincial governments, to engage with municipalities and institutions across the country to make sure that we are serving our vulnerable Canadians the best way we possibly can, and that's why I'm in politics. Thank you very much.